Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring a really ancient idea about why we suffer, but we're going to frame it in a way that I think makes a lot of practical sense. We're going to dig right into the source code of our own minds to find the root of our dissatisfaction.
So let me just start with a question for you. Do you ever feel like your mind just gets slow or crashes or is just full of these weird glitches you can't seem to control? You know, like you're running on an old, buggy operating system that's constantly getting in its own way.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to map out this mental operating system, then we'll identify the hacker that's causing all the bugs. We'll examine the specific malware causing the problems, and, most importantly, show you how to install your very own mental antivirus.
Okay, let's dive right in. Now, a core concept in Buddhist thought is something called dukkha. It usually gets translated as suffering, but honestly, it's a bit more subtle than that. A better way to think about it is like a fundamental unsatisfactoriness or just a persistent system error that's always running in the background.
Yeah, it's that background hum of anxiety, right? Or frustration, or just a general dissatisfaction you can't quite put your finger on. It's that feeling that your mental OS is just never running perfectly smoothly, that something is just a little bit off kilter all the time.
So, what's causing all these system errors? Well, the Buddha identified a systemic force called Mara. And for what we're talking about today, let's not think of Mara as some kind of red demon with a pitchfork. No. Think of Mara as a master hacker.
Mara's entire goal, its only objective, is to keep our system distracted, confused, and totally occupied. Its whole game is to prevent us from achieving any real clarity or peace by constantly introducing new bugs, new exploits, and new distractions to keep us from seeing how our own system actually works.
And this is a really key distinction. Unlike the Western idea of an external evil force like Satan, Mara is way better understood as an internal pattern of obstruction. It's not some force out there trying to get you. It's a fundamental glitch in here, right in our own programming.
So this metaphorical hacker, it doesn't just use one method. Oh no, it's got 5 primary attack vectors, or you could call them toolboxes, that it uses to keep our systems compromised and stuck in these endless loops of suffering.
And this just shows you how comprehensive this system of obstruction really is. It's not just about corrupt software. The attack vectors cover everything from hardware failures, like getting old and sick, to old legacy code from our past actions causing new bugs, and even these distracting pop-ups that seem really pleasant but just pull us away from what's actually important.
Now, for our day-to-day experience, the most important of these attack vectors is something called Kilesa. This is the one we're dealing with constantly. So think of it as a full suite of malicious software that kind of comes pre-installed on our operating system. And at its core, this entire malware suite runs on 3 incredibly powerful root programs. First, you've got greed. That's the impulse to pull things towards you, to get more, to possess. Then you've got anger. That's the impulse to push things away, to reject, to destroy. And finally, there's delusion, which is basically the fog that stops the system from seeing its own operations clearly.
So here's the really crucial point. These 3 root programs, they don't just act alone. They actually spawn more specific applications. We're talking 16 primary types of malware that cloud our judgment, hijack our emotions, and cause all sorts of system-wide dysfunction. Learning to recognize these individual programs, that is the first step to debugging our own minds. These are the little processes running in the background of our daily lives. Things like envy, conceit, stinginess, deceit. They feel like they're a part of us, but really, they're just code.
For example, let's just run a quick scan. Okay, yep, there it is. envy.exe. Think of this as a specific virus that's just running in the background, constantly scanning your environment. The second it detects someone else has something you want, boom, it launches an attack and corrupts your contentment files.
Or how about this one, conceit.dll. This is a process that is constantly inflating your self-importance data. It leads to this endless cycle of comparison, competition, and conflict when you interact with other systems, because it's always trying to prove that it's superior.
But the real challenge here, the reason this malware is so effective, is that it's designed to run in stealth mode. As the source material puts it so beautifully, these defilements are like rust hidden in iron. It's corroding the whole system from the inside out, but you often can't even see it on the surface.
So, if our minds are running all this malicious code, what's the solution? We can't just throw out the hardware, right? No, we need to become our own system administrator. We need to install a powerful antivirus program.
And this brings us to what might be the most crucial point of this entire explainer. You cannot remove a virus you don't know exists. The first, most powerful step you can possibly take toward a healthier mental OS is to simply recognize when this malware is running. Just seeing it, that's half the battle right there.
The tools for this? They're mindfulness and wisdom. Think of mindfulness as the real-time scanner that sends you an alert. Malware detected. Conceit.dll is now active. And then wisdom is the function that immediately puts that file into quarantine, stopping it from taking over your entire system. It doesn't delete the code, but it stops it dead in its tracks.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought. This isn't just some clever theory. It's a practical diagnostic tool. Now that you know what to look for, just take a moment. What malware have you noticed running on your operating system just today? Because that awareness, well, that's where the real work of debugging your mind truly begins.